Welcome to edupediaworld.com. This is Somja Janai, your online biology tutor. In last videos, we have already discussed about evolution and different theories of evolution. In this video, we are going to discuss about Hardy-Weinberg Equilibrium and different sources of variation. Hardy-Weinberg Equilibrium. It was proposed by G.H. Hardy, a British mathematician, and W. Weinberg, a German physician, independently in 1908. According to Hardy-Weinberg law, under certain conditions of stability, allelic frequencies remain constant from generation to generation in sexually reproducing organisms. If all other factors remain constant, the frequency of particular genes and alleles, proportion of one particular type of allele to the total of alleles at a given genetic locus, that will remain constant in a population through generation. This kind of stability at the genetic level is called genetic equilibrium or genetic inertia. What are the uses of Hardy-Weinberg principle? It helps genetics to determine the time and degree of evolution. This principle is used to calculate gene frequency at a starting point and then compare it to frequencies measured at some future time. The amount of deviation between observed frequencies and those predicted by Hardy-Weinberg principle indicates the degree of evolutionary change. Therefore, evolution is said to occur when there is an upsetting of equilibrium or overcoming of inertia. In other words, evolution is a departure from Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Sources of variation. Variation is one of the main sources of evolution. No two members of a population are exactly alike. The dissimilarities of characteristics between members of same species are called variation. Variation is the raw material on which agents of evolution act. Therefore, for a population to evolve, its members must possess variation. Variation are of two types. There are environmental variations and genetic variations. Environmental variations are not heritable. These are somatic variation brought about in the body for a lifetime. Adjustment of organism to environmental factors like cold, light, etc. Genetic variations are heritable as they occur in the genes. Variations can be observed both at the phenotypic level and at the genotypic level. The physical expression of genes in an organism is called phenotype and the genetic constitution of an organism is called genotype. Natural selection can act on genetic variation only when it is expressed in the phenotype. Therefore, genetic variation is the prerequisite of evolution. Evolutionary agents. The forces that change the gene and genotype frequencies in a population are called evolutionary agents. They cause deviations from Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. The five basic processes affect Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium and cause variations at genetic level. These are mutations, recombination, gene migration, genetic drift, and natural selection. Mutation. The sudden heritable change in the genotype of an organism is called mutation. It causes genetic variation. Mutation theory was proposed by Hugo de Vries. These mutations are random, that is indiscriminate, with respect to the adaptive needs of the organism. Most mutations are harmful or with no effect, or it is neutral on their bearers. However, under changed environmental conditions, the genes which are previously harmful or neutral may become advantageous. The rate of mutation is very slow. Usually one mutation occurs in a million. Still, these mutations are sufficient to create considerable genetic variations. Recombination. The reshuffling of gene combination which provides new combinations of existing genes during crossing over is called recombination. Recombination may bring together the genes that arose at different times and places. Since recombination adds new genes and new gene combination to the gene pool, it is an agent of evolution. Variation can arise in a population due to recombination of genes. Gene migrations. Some populations are completely isolated from other populations of the same species. Migration may occur between different populations of the species. If the migrating individuals breed within the new population, the immigrants will add new alleles or genes to the local gene pool of the host population. It is called gene migration or gene flow. The addition or removal of genes when individuals enter or exit a population from another locality results in gene flow. Therefore, diffusion of genes into a population occurs as a result of migration, emigration or immigration. When the gene flow is unrestricted, it decreases the difference between gene pool and consequently reduces the distinction between separated populations. Genetic drift. The random changes in the gene frequency occurring by chance alone are called genetic drift. Drift is the binomial sampling error of the gene pool. This means that the genes that form the gene pool of the next generation are a sample of the alleles from the current generation. The effect of genetic drift is very small in a large population, but it is large in a small population. In a small population, a chance event may increase the frequency of character that has little adaptive value. Genetic drift can cause significant changes in the gene frequencies or allele frequencies in a population derived from small bands of colonizers called founders in a new habitat. Often their phenotypes quickly become different from the parental populations, sometimes that forming a new species. Such an effect is called founder effect. A drastic decrease in population size due to population crashes can cause change in gene frequencies. Since the gene pool is limited, population crashes reduces the ability of the population to re-establish its former richness. Such type of reduction in gene frequencies is called a genetic bottleneck. It often prevents species from reversing its path from extinction. Natural selection. It is the most important evolutionary process that leads to the changes in gene frequencies and promote adaptation as a product of evolution. The individuals which are well adapted, that is having pre-existing classes of genetic variants in the gene pool, generally survive longer or produce more offspring. This is called differential reproduction. Through such differential reproduction, adaptive genes or alleles are selected for transferring to next generation and thus increase in frequency over generation, while the genes which are less adaptive, being present in the reproductively less successful individuals, fails to get selected and decreased in frequency over generations. According to Darwinian concept, the survival and fertility mechanisms that promote differential reproduction are known as selection. The process of differential reproduction that leads to the differential contribution of genotypes to the gene pool of the next generation, that is called the natural selection. Different types of natural selection. Natural selection results in a change in gene frequencies of a population. Depending upon what type of character or trait are favored, selection can produce any one or several different results. The effect of natural selection or a variable character may be of following three types: the stabilizing selection, directional selection, and disruptive selection. What are stabilizing selections? When the largest and the smallest individual in a population produce relatively fewer offspring to the next generation than those of the average size, the stabilizing selection is under operation. Such a selection reduces the variation but does not change the mean value. In such cases, the natural selection is usually stabilizing. As a result, the rates of evolution become typically very slow. Directional selection or change. When the individuals of one extreme of size, example the larger or the smaller one, contribute more offspring to the next generation than the individuals of the other extreme size, then the mean size of individuals will increase in the population. In this case, Directional selection is under operation. The operation of directional selection for many generations results in an evolutionary trend within the population. Disruptive selection. When the natural selection simultaneously favors individuals at both extreme size, or disruptive selection is under operation. This kind of selection is rare. In disruptive selection, the individuals at the extremes of a character contribute more offspring as compared to those in the center, resulting in the formation of two peaks in the distribution of a character. Effect of natural selection on a variable character. The character selected here is the fur color of the rat. The first graph is the original population. Here you can see different phenotypes or different fur color. And in the stabilizing selection, it will favor the mean color. That is, it will be in the middle of the light and dark color. When go to the directional selection, it will go to one of the extreme. Here it favored the darker color. And when it go to the disruptive selection, here you can see both the two peaks, that is both the colors are selected. Both light and dark colors you can see here. Example for natural selection. Industrial melanism is a very good example for natural selection. England has two varieties of peppered moth, the dull grey or light colored Biston Betullaria variant typica and the black dark colored Biston Betullaria variant carbonaria. Before the Industrial Revolution, the grey colored moths were in abundance, or the grey lichens covered tree trunks. The black moths were very few. Predatory birds could not easily see the grey moths on the grey tree trunks, whereas the black ones were easily seen and eaten. Thus, the grey moths are naturally selected over the black, and so were of a greater number. Industrial Revolution resulted in a large-scale burning of coal. The smoke and soot from these industries got deposited on the tree trunks, turning them black. The grey moths on the black trunks became visible on the birds and were eaten by them. The black moths were not seen in the black background and so escaped predation. Thus, the black moths become naturally selected over the grey ones and increased in number, reaching 99% within a course of 50 years. This replacement of the dull grey colored moths by the dark colored variety due to the presence of industrial pollution, smoke and soot was termed as industrial melanism. This is the example. Here you can see that in the generation 0 there are grey colored moths are abundant, and after several generations you can see that the dark colored phenotype is increased than grey colored ones. Difference between natural and artificial selection. Natural selection. It is a natural phenomenon. It is conducted by nature. Results are achieved over a long period. Leads to the great diversity in nature and animals only. Artificial selection. It is an artificial process. It is conducted by man. Results are achieved in a short period of time. It has led to the evolution of few economically important plants. Here you can see a sketch of the evolution of plant forms through geological periods. Here you can see how the angiosperms flowering plants are evolved. This is a representative evolutionary history of vertebrates through geological period. Here you can see how the mammals are turtles, lizards, snakes and crocodile, birds, and finally the mammals. And in between you can see the dinosaurs which is extincted, and all that thing you can see in the picture. This is a comparison of the skulls of adult modern human being, baby chimpanzee and adult chimpanzee. The skull of the baby chimpanzee is more like the adult human skull than the adult chimpanzee skull. This is a very good example that man is evolved from chimpanzees. Thus, I am winding up the chapter. Thank you. In the next video, we will be discussing about the next chapter, human health and disease.